I've been sitting with this for a couple of days, and you need to know ahead of time that I'm going to be talking about suicide and ancestors who committed suicide. All of these things are going to be woven through in what I hope is something that resembles a graceful manner, but I'm not writing this ahead of time. I'm just winging it. I want to also share that what I'm sharing has a very, very special place in my heart because between the ages of 4 and I'll just say about 54, so for a solid 5 decades, I was chronically suicidal. Um, without fitting the definitions of things that would lead to suicidality as they are described in modern mental health. Let me start with this. Let me start with telling a story. So back in 2013, 2014-ish, before I started living on the road, I had visitations from young people. This cohort was all male. Young men and boys who had killed themselves from across North America, from indigenous communities. These communities were in Nunavut, as far north as Yellowknife, but mostly were along what is now the Canadian-American border. They were mostly from Cree and Ojib country. And 201, they each came to tell me why they committed suicide. And in their explanation was an ask. So, I will use the Nunavut youngster as like the starting point for this. I don't remember how old he was when he committed suicide, but he did so because he had been having spiritual experiences for many, many years that fit outside the established and accepted cultural norms. His experience of spirituality included visions and visitations from deities related to the Hindu pantheon. It was also an awareness of his about how these two things blended together to create the medicine. That's not his word, that's mine. And for years, he went to the people you're supposed to go to for help for these things. He went to other medicine people, he went to his parents, he went to his doctors, and he was everything but accepted. And after being labeled crazy, after being forced on medications that did not do anything healthy for him, trying to figure it out on his own, he just got sick and tired of it and decided that he was done. And all of the others that came with him, they were as a cohort, experienced the same things. The difference between the Nunavut youngster and many of the others is that he utilized an immediate way out of a body, and others took a slow route through addictions, through hanging out in really risky situations, creating really risky situations where with the intent of their life being ended. It's one of the reasons why I am adamant about working with young people in terms of becoming the medicine. Because their collective ask was, in short, we're not the only ones experiencing this. Please help. And at the time, I didn't really have a frame of reference. All of my experiences were just beginning. But when I started living on the road and having my own holy shit cow wow experiences that had nothing to do with accepted spiritual experiences, especially for a white woman, I was like, whoa, okay, I see what you mean. This is coming to the fore for a couple of reasons. One, I had an experience on the in the rabbit hole that is paranormal TikTok. Holy shit. Like y'all. So I want to share this, that most people, even of those of the in quotes psychic or medium experiences, do not have the full understanding that there are billions upon billions of ancestors, two-legged, four-legged, and otherwise, that roam the planet with us and roam places outside the planet, because you can when you're no longer tethered to a body. There are as many ways of living outside of the body as there are of living inside of the body. Not everyone becomes an ancestor. Some people immediately go back to the eternal return. Those that hang out do not follow the rules in the way that we think they should. Ancestors are not tied to family. They are not tied to social constructs. There are no universal rules for ancestors and how they should behave, can't behave. You try getting ancestors to behave in the way that you think is most appropriate, right? Give that a go. I describe that as the same as arguing with a toddler or arguing with God. Just, yeah, good luck with that. Ancestors can appear to people in any way, shape, form, or fashion that they choose. Some are friend, some are not. Many contain the egoic attachments, or not contain, because they're not really contained. Take with them egoic attachments to family, to their own ideas of rules about how things should be. And when those meet things like the rules of physics, that doesn't exactly work out so well. I got stories about that, including times where it works out brilliantly and somebody, bless their little heart, will do something like turn the bathroom light on for me at 2:30 in the morning. I mean, how sweet is that? There was some psychic dude whose name I totally forget, also found on TikTok. Y'all, I'm being sucked into TikTok world. But he was like, oh, and the ancestors, they're just so filled with peace and light. And I'm like, well, good on you for having that experience. There's a handful of those in my world that are that way. We identify them as deities. Except maybe not Jeebus. And I call him that because I can, because he is active in my world. He thinks he's the boss of me, and he's a pain in my ass. He's one of the very few people I can call a dick to, and he fully accepts that. But moving on. I'm moving on to this idea of of the shame around suicide and how we treat the ancestors that have become so because they committed suicide. Somebody said to me the other day, I don't know why they keep coming to me. I can't help them. And although they weren't talking about me, I was powerfully hurt and really couldn't articulate to them why. The shame around suicide is human made. It's human made. There is no, again, universal law that says there's something wrong with suicide. However, foundational to that is this: there is no death. There is no death. This does not mean that the grief and loss and discombobulation that happens when a loved one leaves their body is not real. It absolutely is. However, there is no death. My not so favorite asshole who spends a lot of time in my world telling me what to do tried to teach humanity that. So I don't like Jesus. I don't. I do know and am flabbergasted that he knew he was going to die. He knew how he was going to die, and he knew why he was dying. He made an active choice. An active choice to die, to teach two things. One, there is no death. There is no death. Life just looks different. He also took one for the team of humanity in an attempt to teach there is no sin. Bless his little heart, not very many people learned that lesson. For reasons. We could talk ad nauseum about that. So, when any ancestor, no matter how they left their body by their own hand, in battle, old age, disease, decrepit orneriness, are still alive. They are still alive. So when someone appears in body or out of body, comes to one like me or like many others to be loved, love. Love. This brings me to paranormal TikTok. So the example is not found on TikTok. This was probably from like the 80s or whatever, when I watched television, and I had a thing for like the haunted house shows because I was like, ooh. One of these was, okay, so we're in an antiques store. Dun, 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 dun. And the introduction is like this couple finds this gorgeous armoire kind of closet slash TV entertainment system setup, whatever. And it is divine. Like, it is handcrafted amazeballs antiqueness, right? So anyhow, they bring this thing home, and the dude of the house is going to refurbish it because it needs a little bit of love. And weird things start happening in the house. There are electrical problems, there are plumbing issues, there are weird noises. And then, of course, you know, you have like the soundtrack in the background that is like dun, dun, dun. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like Jaws music, right? The ghost of the armoire. And one of the most beautiful expressions of love was in this show. The man of the house grabs a Bible, and instead of this whole, I'm going to exercise, whatever, which is a whole other subject, he sits down in front of this armoire and he starts reading his favorite Psalms. And in this sharing, there was no judgment. There was zero fear. There was just devoted attention to sharing love with a haunted armoire. Love. That's it. Love. Perhaps try loving before somebody kills himself. Perhaps consider that you don't know what somebody else is going through. So before they have the idea and the courage to remove themselves from a body, love. Just love. Super simple. Yet something we complicate. Great day. If you're having a hard time, reach out. I love you.